5 years before retirement, a cracked tooth is annoying. 5 months after the final paycheck, the same predictable bill can feel like an attack on the retirement plan. The cost did not change, the timing did. Most people spend their last working years trying to make the account balance larger. But one of the smartest moves may be using some money before retirement, on costs you can already see coming, and on opportunities that may not wait. There are 5 things worth considering. The 5th is not really an object, and it may be the one people regret delaying most. This is general retirement education, not advice tailored to your personal situation. The right timing can change with your coverage, tax position, and household finances. Start with your body. A lot of people postpone dental work or a hearing evaluation because work is busy and the problem still feels manageable. Other known care gets pushed into the same vague category of later. Then retirement arrives, the insurance changes, and the issue becomes harder to schedule and more expensive to absorb. Original Medicare does not cover most routine dental care, routine eye exams for prescription glasses, or hearing aids. Other coverage may help, and some Medicare Advantage plans include extra benefits. But the point is simple. Do not assume the next insurance system will pay for something your current plan handles better. That does not mean rushing into unnecessary treatment just because retirement is near. Get the evaluation now and ask what can safely wait. Then compare the current coverage with the plan you expect to use after work ends. Complete medically appropriate care only when the timing genuinely favors you. Imagine retiring with a healthy cash reserve and then learning that the dental work you delayed will take several appointments and several $1,000s during the first year without wages. The portfolio did not fail. The calendar did. The protection move is not buy every medical service. It is to reduce avoidable uncertainty. A second opinion may prevent overspending. Waiting may still be reasonable. But going into retirement without even knowing what is developing is the expensive version of patience. A useful way to do this is to compare 2 columns before the final workday: what your current plan covers and what the retirement plan is expected to cover. Start with the procedure and the deductible. Then account for follow-up visits and the time you may need to recover. The cheapest month is not always the best month, but uncertainty should not make the choice for you. Then look at the address printed on your retirement plan. If you already live in a home that fits your future budget and physical needs, this purchase may already be complete. The location and maintenance burden still need to make sense. But if you expect to move or buy a different home, leaving the decision until after retirement can create unnecessary pressure. Retirement income can still qualify for a mortgage. Lenders are generally required to consider pensions, Social Security, and other stable income, rather than rejecting it simply because the applicant is older. But every lender still has to verify income, assets, and debts. A regular paycheck can make the documentation feel simpler, while a newly retired household may need award letters, distribution records, or proof that income will continue. The real question is not whether a retiree can get financing. It is whether the next home has been tested against retirement cash flow. A house that feels affordable on a salary can feel very different when property taxes rise, insurance renews, and every repair comes from savings. A cheaper house can also be a bad move if it places you far from doctors, family, or the daily life you actually want. So do not buy a retirement home merely because you can still qualify. Buy housing certainty. Spend time in the area. Price the taxes and insurance first. Then add any association fees, travel costs, and realistic maintenance. If you are considering a new area, rent there through an ordinary season before committing. Visit the grocery store and drive to the medical center. Notice how far family really is on a Tuesday, not during a holiday weekend. Also, resist the urge to sell the current home before the next arrangement is genuinely workable. A temporary overlap can be expensive, but a rushed purchase can lock the household into taxes, maintenance, or isolation that no spreadsheet captured. Once the address is settled, stand in the doorway and look at what could fail. The best home purchase before retirement may not be a prettier kitchen. It may be a roof with 10 reliable years left, or an HVAC system that will not die during the first heat wave. Safer stairs and better lighting can matter more than finishes. Cosmetic remodeling can wait. Reliability deserves priority. A planned replacement while income is still arriving is easier to compare, schedule, and negotiate than an emergency replacement after water is entering the ceiling. But replacing every older system early can waste money too. Age alone does not prove failure is near. A better approach is a condition review. Find out what is worn or unsafe. Separate those problems from systems that are merely older but still have useful life. Then decide whether to repair, replace, or build a reserve. Put the major systems on one page with an estimated replacement window and a funding source. A 10-year-old furnace may need only a reserve. A roof already showing leaks may deserve action. Grouping projects can sometimes reduce disruption, but it can also tempt you into upgrades that were never necessary. So separate safety from taste. The point is not to make the house new. It is to make the first years of retirement less vulnerable to one predictable failure arriving at the worst possible market moment. This is where the answer changes if you are already retired. Do not read a list like this and start spending in panic. The principle still works without a paycheck. Turn vague fear into a schedule. A known roof replacement 5 years from now is easier to fund than a mysterious house that might collapse at any moment. The next purchase sits in the driveway. A reliable, low-maintenance car can remove a surprising amount of friction from retirement. It protects access to doctors and family. It also keeps ordinary errands from becoming a weekly obstacle. But buy a car before retirement is not the same as buy a brand new expensive car because the paycheck still exists. If the current car is dependable and fits the next several years, keeping it may be the smartest purchase you never make. If it is approaching a costly replacement point and the retirement plan already assumes another vehicle, handling that decision before the income transition may make the budget cleaner. The useful comparison is not old car versus shiny car. It is predictable transportation versus a large surprise. Look at the remaining loan and the repairs likely to arrive. Then compare insurance and fuel with the kind of driving retirement will require. A couple who will drive less may need less car. A household moving to a rural area may need more reliability, not more luxury. If financing is part of the decision, compare the payment with the retirement budget rather than the current salary. A 6-year loan can follow you deep into retirement, even when the car still feels affordable today. Paying cash may reduce monthly obligations, but only if it leaves enough liquidity for the rest of the plan. Transportation changes with the retirement lifestyle. One household may drop from 2 commuting cars to 1. Another may travel more or live where public transportation is weak. Buy for the life you are planning, not the working life you are leaving. And be careful about draining retirement accounts to create the appearance of being debt-free. A taxable distribution can create income tax, and withdrawals before age 59 and a half may also face an additional tax, unless an exception applies. The vehicle should reduce future stress, not create a tax problem today. Now we reach the fifth purchase, the one that cannot be stored in a garage or repaired by a contractor. Buy a date on the calendar. That might be a long-planned trip or a visit with distant family. It could be a hiking route, a class, or a season spent somewhere you have always wanted to know. The important part is that it depends on energy, mobility, or people who will not remain available forever. This does not mean prepaying a non-refundable fantasy years in advance. It means creating a real fund, choosing a realistic window, and making the experience difficult to postpone indefinitely. Use refundable bookings when possible. Keep the emergency reserve separate. Do not borrow against retirement merely to prove that you are living. The experience does not need to be expensive or dramatic. What makes it valuable is that it closes a gap between intention and action. A family reunion booked for next spring can matter more than an abstract dream of world travel that has survived untouched for 15 years. Talk about the timing with the people involved. A spouse may imagine slow travel while the other expects to stay close to home. Adult children may have limited vacation windows. The purchase is not complete until the calendar works for the people whose presence gives it meaning. The first four purchases protect the machinery of retirement. This one gives the machinery a reason to exist. Many careful savers reach retirement and discover that spending feels like damage. Every withdrawal looks like a smaller balance, even when the plan was built to support exactly this kind of experience. Putting one meaningful event on the calendar before the final paycheck can help the household practice using money deliberately, rather than only preserving it. And timing matters. Money can survive another year in the account. A healthy me, an independent parent, or a grandchild who still wants to travel with you may not. So the rule behind all 5 purchases is not spend more before retirement. It is move the right costs forward. Handle known health work when coverage and timing are favorable. Settle the housing decision before it becomes urgent. Reduce predictable household and transportation shocks. Then reserve some money for a time-sensitive part of life. This week, write down one expense you already expect within the first 5 years of retirement. Do not estimate vaguely. Find the likely timing, the funding source, and what would happen if it arrived 1 year earlier. In the comments, tell me which known cost is already waiting in your retirement plan. Health work, housing, a major repair, transportation, or an experience you keep postponing. Next, we are looking at what happens to Social Security when someone stops working at 55. The claiming age matters, but the 35-year earnings formula can change the answer before the first benefit check is ever requested. Retirement gets calmer when predictable costs stop pretending to be surprises.